It is BadCuzDad. It's Tom and Scott. We're here. We have another podcast episode for you guys. We are joined by Chase from Chasing Horizons. What's up, Chase? How you doing, man?
Good. Doing good.
Awesome, man. And we also have Rob. Rob, what's going on, man? How are you? It's been a while since we had you on, but we're glad to have you back, dude. How you been?
Thanks. Doing pretty good. Things are going pretty well for me.
Glad to have Rob on today and Chase because I know there might have a little Starfield controversy going on. So I want to hear some takes from both sides of the fence today. I've been hearing some good things, some not so good things, so I want to hear it firsthand and see what's going on. But I guess, man, let's just start with you, Scott. What have you been playing this week?
Oof, and the game is still Remnant, guys. I gotta say, that game has roped me in like many others haven't recently in the recent memory. So I have continued to have a great time with this game, and me and Chase have been playing a lot of it. He's pretty much the only guy. Coltrane tries, but we haven't been connecting. But man, this game just gets better, and I'm not finding myself bored in the least.
So what's like something that's been keeping, can you put a finger on it? Like what's so good about it that you're sticking around? I'll throw it to you and Chase. I mean, what's the appeal of Remnant? Like, why is it so much better than Destiny 2 at this point, or the other looter shooters you've played?
I mean, there's a lot of things here, and there's small nuances, but I just straight up for me, the fact that it's drop in, drop out, it continues to just be fun. Plain and simple, it's freaking fun to play. So those two things, and then the nuances, the discoveries, like Jason and I were playing a reroll tonight on an adventure mode, and man, we just noticed new things on the vendors, new gear sets. There was new items we could find. We were obviously in a new procedurally generated world. So it just is always exciting, and it's always fun. And that's all I want in a game right now.
That's cool. And so I'm assuming a reroll is a new character. No. But it's not.
No, you have your character, you re-roll the world. So you can potentially get different bosses, the enemies on each map. There's a set of enemies, but it's not always the same ones that you'll fight. And then the worlds are procedurally generated, so the worlds won't look exactly the same as they did prior. And there's just new stuff to find, and then you can re-roll with higher difficulty. So it's a slow climb, but it's a fun climb. The journey is great.
You're resetting the world that you first entered. So it's not like a prestige mode or something where you're starting over. It
kinda,
but it doesn't reset your level or anything. You're still same level.
Yeah,
same level, same weapons, all of that.
Which is kind of neat because the work you put in, you get to keep. You get to keep modding weapons, trying out new builds and stat mixes, and it just remains exciting. So that's the best part for me.
It almost seems like the Diablo system of having a new season, but better because you don't have to re-roll a character in a way.
That's a good way to put it. It's like everything. Like we talked about early on. It blends a lot of the great things from other games, but the fact is that it's straightforward. It's not super complex. And the grind, it's a slow burn, but you always feel like you're doing something. You're not like, I'm so weak right now, but I'll be OP when I get to here. It's like you feel that you could be better, but you're still doing good. And that's the cool thing with the difficulties that you can change. Is as you keep going, you can keep turning it higher and keep resetting the worlds. And it's like kind of playing it over again for the first time.
But it's new because since it's procedurally generated. Are the worlds that much different when you reset it, or not a whole lot?
Much. Enough to notice the difference, but some of the boss areas are the same. Like there are same parts of the map, but other than that, it's just it's always engaging. It's always fun, and we've been having a good time, Chase. I wish we could bring more people to it.
Yeah. We're like salesmen over here. We're like trying to hustle. I feel like the devs should be paying us at this point. It's like every week. What are you playing, Remnant? Yeah.
Well, I'll ask you next then, Chase, because I was in Discord with you guys earlier, and you guys were like going nuts over something. I don't know if you found like a new vendor after you re-rolled or what was going on.
It was all the armor sets, right?
Yeah. So we re-rolled after I had realized I hit a wall. Our I guess apparently, I don't know if it's a bug or not, but like we re-rolled because apparently some of the worlds they don't finish. So like there's an adventure mode, and that's what we're doing right now. And like at some point, some of the the procedurally generated worlds don't have like a finish line. And so you go, okay, we have to re-roll. And we're like, fine, we'll re-roll, whatever. Same difficulty mode, whatever. And we re-rolled and we went to the vendors, and it was just like, well, what are these? Like, I haven't seen these before. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
So so we got like, there was like new rings, there was new amulets. It was like an eye opener. Like, holy moly, like what are we missing out on? And then we went to each other vendors just to see if there was anything else. And it was just like a brand new game. We're like, okay, let's go. Like, yeah.
Is the loot procedurally generated as well, like the perks and stats? So it's like you could re-roll forever to try to chase cool stat combinations, and
I think
I
it's
don't
like,
know, honestly, dude.
That's
I'm
a
not
good
sure.
question.
That would be super cool.
That's a good question, because I think maybe from a perspective of like, because a lot of it's armor based, a lot of it's weapon based. Everything you do is really kind of stuck to whatever you pick up or whatever you find. So it's like, it's not your character necessarily. The archetypes are kind of part of that, but like,
I think it's more about, number one, what difficulty you're on, because the higher difficulty you are, the resistances are going to matter more, that kind of stuff. You're going to rely on more potions and utilize like every part of the gameplay. But I think the higher you get, being that point being that you have the resistances and such, you have to actually mix and match certain gear, especially for the archetype you're playing, or you have to make sure you're wearing the right armor resistance or using the correct mods for certain bosses, because it matters. Like, those decisions matter. So there's a lot of complexity, I think, that comes with the higher difficulty and the more stuff you get of trying to build your certain archetype, class and whatnot. So it has potential to be complicated if you want it to. Otherwise, if you're just looking for an easy shooter, put on normal mode and it's just fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is like really fascinating to me. So once you re-roll and you get new stat combinations and stuff, the armor persists, right? Like once you re-roll again, so it's not like you're losing armor to a world, right? So you can re-roll and take stuff with you. But is that a bug? You said you re-rolled, but there wasn't like a path towards
it. I looked it up.
Like
I looked it up on Steam just to see if we had done, because we had finished the world. We're like, what the heck? There's no more world. We beat out the bosses. We got to the end, end boss, and all this. And then we're like, I just look. Yeah, we got through the dungeons, and I looked it up, and somebody apparently is like, yeah, just re-roll. And I was like,
interesting.
Oh, okay, like, so I guess there procedurally is a possibility that the world ends and that's it. And you have to re-roll. So I don't know if that it could be a bug. I mean, it could be something they addressed.
Probably is. There's been some odd bugs we've run into, but it's nothing that like a game reset won't do.
No.
So.
Nothing
and it actually surprised.
Yeah.
It was like that again. I go back to this. I think I said it before. The surprise and delight factor. It's like they literally like by us re-rolling. It didn't feel like, oh well, we hit an end. We kind of hit a wall. It's like, let's re-roll. Let's just give it a shot. And then holy moly, like now I've got an armor that complements my medic side, and it's like that's what I wanted the entire time I was playing. So we
need to get more scrap.
I know, yeah, but yeah, on top of the Remnant game, I've also been playing some other games too. I picked up Hypercharge Unboxed. I started playing that again. That's a random dev that they made the game last year, and it's been a couple years now. It's good. It's a good first person shooter. Really good. It's fun if you like the old Sarge's Heroes, those types of games, like where you're a toy. But it's a cool game. Yeah, it's a really cool game. And then I've been playing Splatoon 3.
Nice.
As an uncle, I've been playing Splatoon 3 with my nephews. So that's been a lot. That's been a lot of fun. So yeah.
So, do you play online or like split screen?
Yeah, we play online. We've been doing the co-op mode, the Splatoon co-op mode, which has been a lot of fun. So yeah,
it's awesome.
Sweet, awesome, man. And I guess I'll just throw it to you, Rob, man. What have you been up to? Even though I know it's Starfield, but why don't you tell us what you've been playing, man?
Well, Starfield is the main
Okay.
game. I'm probably about 20, 25 hours in. I've seen so much hate for it online, but like I don't know. I just think it's a fun game. I have a good time playing it. I like the it's got plenty of action, but it's not like it doesn't completely revolve around the action. There's other things you could do. You can even like for missions that might call for you to fight with a gun. You can maybe persuade the characters not to fight you and to either join you or to just split up and go their own way. There's just the story seems very in depth. And obviously there's action and gunplay and jumping around and flying around with your jetpack, shooting pirates, and then you got the battles above planets in space, which is a nice, cool dimension to these types of games you don't normally get. And one thing that I've found in Starfield that's really, really cool is you can, whether you're on the ground and as your player or in a ship, you can seamlessly switch between first and third person. I've never really seen that in a game
That is
before.
a cool feature.
But it just one button, you're in one, you're out the other. And I'm not usually a first person shooter type of guy, but the first person when you're on the ground seems to work better for me in this game. But then the third person when you're in a ship seems to work better for me.
Yeah.
Nice. And let's get James in here before we keep going.
Hey.
What's going on, James? You doing all right, man?
Right.
You guys hear me or what?
Yeah, we're good,
Oh,
man.
That was the
hey.
smoothest transition we've ever had.
Look at that. A wild James has appeared.
Thank you. Yes.
And James, we'll throw it to you in a second. But Rob, what else have you been playing besides Starfield?
So this
I will
one's
have some
kinda-
more Starfield questions, but I just want to see
yeah.
what else you're playing before we get there.
This one's kind of out of left field, and this game came out a few months ago, but I just picked it up on my Switch. AEW Fight Forever.
Ooh,
It's
I've
a
heard good
wrestling
things
game.
about that.
So if you've ever played any of the
Yeah.
old N64 wrestling
Yeah.
games like No Mercy and WrestleMania 2000, it's
Heck
basically the exact same type of gameplay, just with
Great
updated
games,
graphics
by
and
the
new
way.
wrestlers.
If anybody has played that out there, those
Yeah, I
games
need
were
to pick-
phenomenal for their time.
You should try it now, man. It's a fun game to play. You could play people online, which those games you never could back then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's got like a more in-depth story mode, but it's basically just a slightly faster version of those games and with better graphics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds fun.
Sweet. All right, man. And James, just in the nick of time, what have you been playing since last time we talked, man?
Still going strong with Remnant.
There we go.
I was fleshing out my my melee build, and I got my World's End sword, so I'm like just sitting there critting for like 2.4k and
What?
healing
Jeez.
myself while
We're like,
All right.
distance.
We're like 300.
That's the
Like
automatic.
600 bullets. Yeah. James.
Yeah,
going over
no.
with
So
beast mode.
I've just been really fleshing out my melee build, and now that I have it fleshed out, I'm either going to start a new like type of job, or I'm going to go hardcore and try to get that really crazy weapon. If you beat it on hardcore,
Dude, you should totally do a guide for that
Yeah.
melee
we-
build. That would be sick.
well, there
We've got
is
some
one
work
on
to do.
there. Obviously,
Okay.
it's not with Arnold speaking as it. Like, let me tell you something. There's this world edge sword. It's going to be super fantastic. You're going to swing it like your life depends on it. Like the movie I was in when it was Conan. It's crazy. You want to hear the lamentation of all the geishas. It's crazy. So obviously that would be a lot more exciting than the video that's out there. But
That'd
there
be
is
awesome.
a guy with a melee build out there that I pretty much mirrored, and it does
Okay.
work pretty well. But that's all I've been doing is that and work. So
Okay. James, are you aware of the world resetting stuff for Remnant at all? Have you reset
As like
yet,
a-
or?
like world reset, like where you re-roll.
Like
the
where you
world.
reroll.
Reroll.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So I've already beat the game on
Okay.
Veteran, and I beat it on Apocalypse. I'm playing through an adventure mode now and trying to get all the
Okay.
extra crap, and then when I get like my melee build where it's at now, which it pretty much is there, then I'm gonna start venturing to the other archetypes.
James, how fun is Remnant? Just baseline. Just how fun
It's
is it?
just
It's
you
always
it's fun. It's
Yeah.
just there's a new map.
There you go.
You're in those like you have that your heart's pounding, and it's just like, oh my gosh, and I still die in 2 hits if I do something wrong.
Yeah.
So it's not just like a very simple. I've got to the point in the game where everything's easy. Like, it's still very difficult. That last boss, he sucks.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Chase hasn't fought him yet.
I still haven't fought him yet, so yeah.
Ugh.
La, 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 la.
But my dodge roll, dude, I am just rolling around like a freaking fiend with that new bisected ring, or no, bright steel ring. You get it after beating 10 nodes.
The
and you
5
just
Ds.
Roll the 5 Ds. You just roll forever at the fastest pace, and it's no matter your armor, and it's really ridiculous how fast you can get out of situations.
Yeah.
I'm assuming rolling is it like an iframe dodge kind of?
Yes.
Like it just mitigates all damage.
And my build, I can roll forever, and I don't lose stamina. So,
Oh,
Dude,
that's great.
Sounds like
That's
Warframe.
awesome.
That's awesome.
yeah, very much like that. So.
Sick. Nice, man.
Hey, James, I asked Chase this too before we move on here real quick. How rad would Outriders have been if it was like Remnant?
Still.
I mean that and what Anthem, like
Yes.
they were
Yes.
both those games.
Man.
Like Outriders was so close. Like they had the gunplay, they
Yeah.
had the skill play. They just didn't have like the I don't know.
There
They
was-
were missing
It
something.
was
does
kind of
get
like
hurt.
bullet
There's no
spongy,
charm.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't
Outriders
rewarding.
was there.
Yes. Same.
But
I
they
would
didn't
say
have that
Outriders
concept,
and
you know?
Anthem had phenomenal mechanics as far as gameplay, but they just missed the mark on everything else.
Yeah,
Yep.
Anthem was like social aspect was terrible, and
Everything
Outriders
about that
was-
game, but the gameplay.
They
was
just didn't
shit.
have the content to support or the synergies to support the game they made.
Yep.
Tragic.
Still hurts.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Anthem is, that man, I thought that was it.
Me
I
too.
thought that was going to be like it. So
I think a
here I
lot of
am,
people thought that.
years
Yeah.
later, BioWare.
So speaking of other games that are going to disappoint us, Starfield. No, I'm just
No, I do want to ask Rob because I think I messaged Rob in Discord earlier this week about. I was like, man, I don't know. Almost like No Man's Sky looks better than Starfield right now. But I mean, kind of looking at it now, I realize that's not a 1-to-1 comparison, obviously. So I guess I just want to kind of ask Rob, like, what is like selling you on? Like, why would someone choose this over No Man's? Or is it? It seems to me like maybe just because the story is just much stronger. Like it's more of an RPG. Is that what's kind of pulls you
Yeah.
towards that versus like a No Man's Sky?
Yeah, it's the story and it's the interaction with characters and all the NPCs. Like this game has, it must be thousands of NPCs. Like you will go down into a planet that's one of the hubs, and there'll just be, 100 NPCs walking around. You could pretty much have a short conversation with almost all of them. So it's just the depth. Like Starfield, I mean, No Man's Sky seems like more of a survival, like it's almost like a Valheim in space,
yeah.
where like there's not really a story. It's just like you're kind of
It's
trying
not really
to,
an incentive.
yeah.
You're just kind of in the world doing stuff.
But the cool thing about No Man's Sky is you can do multiplayer, which Starfield hasn't added that yet, if they ever do. But like, I got the vibe of when I was playing KOTOR, the first Knights of the Old Republic, for the first time playing Starfield, because it kind of like especially the first planet that you go on where it's a hub with people, New Atlantis. It feels a lot like Terrace from KOTOR. It's got
Would
that
you
same
say,
vibe.
Rob, that it's
see that.
the same vibe in the way that it not only looks and feels, but it's also has a great immersion variable to it?
Yeah, because the NPCs, like in KOTOR, at least at the time, there's so many ways you can go with them. It's not like just a linear story. You can kind of be good, be bad, be in the middle, and everything in between. So it kind of has that aspect to it where it doesn't feel like it's a story, but it doesn't feel linear, and you can kind of take it where you want.
What has been your favorite part about it so far?
That part, because I like that was a thing that, because like I wasn't even a huge Star Wars fan when I first played KOTOR,
Right.
and that actually brought me into the franchise.
Well, that's cool. I kind of want to talk through some of the negative things I'm seeing about Starfield, Rob, and just see if, like, maybe they're not that big of a deal. People are just blowing it out of proportion because for whatever reason, you know. But I'll start with this one though. I keep seeing a lot of this, and I don't know if this is fair or not too, but there's a lot of people now that Baldur's Gate has come out, and it's kind of just like knocked it out of the park from what I can see. Like, they just did an incredible job with that game. I think there's obviously some room for improvement, it sounds like, kind of later in the game. But is that fair that people are saying, well, Baldur's Gate's so good, so now we have to crap on Starfield? Because, you know, I don't know. Did you play Baldur's Gate, Rob? Have you picked it up?
I didn't play Baldur's Gate, but like I just feel like, you know, being an IT person, knowing a little bit about development, it's a little bit easier to develop like a turn-based game like that than it is
Sure.
to do an open world game like how Starfield is. So, I mean, it's probably a little bit easier to knock it out of the park, and like I think that turn-based games come out more finished and more polished than a lot of other games do. And that's
Yeah, I
probably
can see
a
that.
lot of the reason why they're popular too.
Well, let's kind of go the other direction then, Chase.
Yeah.
So last podcast, man, you were hype for
Yeah.
Starfield. You were
Yeah.
ready to go. You're bummed that you didn't buy the $100 package to get the early access. But now you have all $100 back in your pocket. So
Yeah.
what happened between $70?
$70. Yeah.
What happened between last week and this week, dude? What's going on?
I think it was a mixture of things. Time is one. Respecting my time was two. And then I think really it came down to I played it for an hour and I realized I don't have the patience anymore for a Skyrim level type of game. And I think just between, you know, the loading screens, I know that's been the biggest conversation. It's like, oh my God, everywhere you go, you load into something, you load into a new city, you load into your ship. And really what it came down to for me was just like, okay, this thing is obviously not like taking my time into consideration. And I only have like, you know, at most maybe an hour a night to play. And I was like, okay, if I'm looking at it from a perspective of long-term value, I'm like, there's a ton of long-term value here. But, you know, because I got thousands of hours in Skyrim and, you know, all the modifications and things like that. So I'm obviously not thinking of it in a negative light for that matter. I know for long-term, it's going to be an amazing game. But I think from the short term of it, I'm like, I don't have time to invest in something that is strictly going to kind of waste my time. And I hate to say that because I love, you know, like Rob was saying, I love the interactions with characters. I love, you know, that getting lost in this world. But like when it takes you out of that world just for that split second, you know, and I remember early days of like, you think about Half-Life, you know, like you just fought through a map or whatever, and now you're in a loading screen. That's what it feels like. You know, it just has that like stutterness of like, it just stopped me and I was like excited to get back into my ship. And it just kind of even if it's quick, it was like literally the quickest load screen, but it's still that little bit of frustration to be like, man, this should be seamless. Like at this point, this should be seamless. Like, so I think that goes back to it being a creation engine game. You know, at this point, I was talking to Scott about it, it's 12 years old. You know, it's a 12-year-old engine, and there's only so much they can do to it now. You know, and while it is great and has been great, it was great for Skyrim. It was great for, you know, just the overall scope of that game. It's showing its cracks, and I think that's where it's starting for me in my headspace right now. It was just like, one, I don't have time for this, you know, and I realized it real quick. But I know, and I said this before, the modders are going to make the game that they wanted to make. And I think, and I think that's kind of a sad reality, but that's what happened with Skyrim. Like, they made the game what Bethesda wanted to make the game, and it's like relying on the community. I'm like, they're doing it again. They're relying on the community to kind of save the day. And I was like, even my perspective as like, I've done web dev, I've worked with, game developers, I know game developers, and it's like, they even feel the same way. They're like, they shouldn't rely on the community to save the day. And so that's
Yeah.
where my heart was. And I felt kind of a little bit burned by it, but I do want to experience what Robbie's experiencing. So I am getting it on Game Pass at some
I do
point.
want to say that I know
So,
Tom will inevitably play Starfield,
yeah,
because as soon as the Star Wars mods come out,
that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
If
They're
they
gonna
have
make it
co-op,
weird.
I'll jump in. If the
Yeah.
modders can incorporate that somehow,
Co-op
that would
Star
be
Wars.
rad.
Yeah.
So I guess just to clarify, Chase,
Yeah.
you don't think it's because like it's not like game bad
No.
refund, right? It's
No, not at
more
all.
like just the timing,
Yeah.
a lot of different things like that kind of a deal.
It's a lot of timing. It's a lot of like me right now just going like, I have so many games I'd rather be playing, and I'm like, and that's
Interesting.
really what it came down to. And I was like, I put that money instantly into something else. I was like, yeah, I can put it here. And
Was there any misaligned expectations too? Because I think a lot of people from what I've read was like, hey, the space transitions are going to be more seamless. And it seemed like
That's-
maybe that wasn't the case. And that's kind of a big letdown. I know this isn't technically a space sim, but it's maybe people were thinking that when they jumped into
Yeah.
it, right? I don't know.
yeah, it might have just been, and I know people argue this and they're like, they never once said, oh no, it's going to be seamless. They never once said
Right.
that. They said it's Skyrim in space, and they defined it as that. And
Yeah.
and going back to the trailers, watching, I'm like, yeah, you're right. They really just kind of hit it, and they made it feel like this immersive overall, which Skyrim was. It was an absolutely incredible experience. But today's day and age, 12 years later, that engine really does have some serious like cracks, and it's showing. And that goes back to, I know we were talking about, at some point we'll talk about the performance of the game. When Scott Howard goes on camera and says, get a better system, essentially the quote of his day was like, just get a better PC or upgrade your PC. I'm like,
Sad.
whoa. I was like, yeah, dude just came out and told everybody that their PCs are like, are hot garbage. And I'm like, okay, one,
He's not lying.
he's not lying. Okay, he's not lying. But to a point of saying like, somebody with a 4090, a brand new GTX 4090, I'm like, and they're saying they're having performance problems. And that's because I guess they worked a deal with AMD, and like AMD cards run better, and so people with NVIDIA cards are kind of getting left out in the dust. And I'm not saying it's happening to everybody. Everybody has a different experience. 30 frames per second is great for somebody. 60 frames per second is like the minimum for some people,
Yeah.
So for me, that I didn't really care. I personally just was like,
How's
yeah, I'm
your
fine with
performance been, Rob, on your end?
Well, I have an AMD card, so I have no
Well,
problem.
there you go.
it.
Okay.
Same. So I have an AMD card too.
but they did say that within the next few weeks they're going to be patching a DLSS update for people with NVIDIA chips. So after that, I think that'll take care of most of the problems people are having.
Yeah, and there's a mod for it right now too already.
It's-
Oh, wow. Already.
Yeah,
Man.
already. Yep.
There you go. Well, I want to ask you this, James, since you've worked, on games before in the past, because Chase brings up an interesting thing about engines, right? Especially, well, at least we know in the world of MMOs. I mean, MMOs take years to develop, and even Starfield. I mean, I think this has been in development for what? It's 6+ years, right? At least
2016.
So I mean, yeah, the technology sometimes, right, James, in these games is just going to fall behind just for the amount of time it takes. Did y'all run into any of that with like PlanetSide or anything?
Yeah,
or?
human error was a big one. One of our coders didn't realize that, like, we found it that I guess one of the cores of the computer, it was only utilizing one core of your computer. So if you had a quad core computer, it was only utilizing one core for PlanetSide 2.
Oh my
Someone
gosh.
later found out because this game was bricking people's computers. We did a SLI. Well, no, we did a Crossfire setup with AMD. Crossfire.
Hey, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so we did the
Wow.
Crossfire.
Thanks for unlocking
That was a
memory.
throwback.
The kids
Little
back,
kids.
yeah,
Wasn't that the,
Yeah.
they looked like I don't know, like
Yeah,
kind
like
of
from
greasers. They had the
Tron,
black shirts
yeah.
on. They were
Yeah.
Tron greasers.
little paddles.
Yeah, so we had a machine that was
awesome.
like top of the line cross-fired machine. It bricked the computer, and the computer was smoking. They had it to where everything was duplicated, to where like all the models were duplicated, including player models. And you know, player models take up the most polygons. So if you have two of everything running around, like it was blowing up people's computers, and that was like the biggest thing that we had found out. So
Yeah, there's like 1,000 players in PlanetSide, so it's like
correct.
that's crazy.
So human error was probably the biggest catalyst for our issues. On top of them just trying to do this amazing, you know, large scale game, but they didn't understand how broad it was going to be until people started jumping in the servers. That makes sense for, you know, probably Sony now, because they came out with EverQuest, and ever since then nothing has been as good for them or as big. So when you have a game like Blizzard, you expect Blizzard to know on launch day what's going to happen. So
Right.
yeah, I think development has a lot to do, and I don't think it's so much to do with the issues of people's PCs, because they actually test individual PCs. They'll get the worst PCs. This is the potato you can run this on versus this is the best of the best. They just don't have the large scale and millions of people, you know, besides a team of like 20 or 30.
There's a guy I follow on YouTube that loves to test the bare minimum spec of every game, and he did that for Starfield. I almost said Skyrim. He did that for Starfield, and it was like laughably. It looked so bad, but I was like, you know what? It's running. He got it running. And I was like, yeah, it's like potato PC, totally potato PC.
Oh man, speaking of EverQuest, rest in peace, EverQuest Next.
Oh yeah, I remember that whole black box project. They
Dude.
bricked that too.
I bought into Landmark. Do you remember that? It was like the
I do remember
voxel
that.
building thing attached to EverQuest Next.
Yeah,
Yeah, I actually paid money for that. Yeah.
Did they just
It was a
officially
good
say
job.
it's done?
it's been done
Like-
for years.
Yeah, they
not-
they canceled
before-
it a long time ago.
So I
yeah.
got laid off in like the first round of layoffs back in 2013, right after they promised me to be an artist. Worst day of my life. They're like, yeah, you'll be an artist and everything, and we're gonna have this company party, and then like half the company got laid off.
Oh
They're
my
like, yeah, we're still
God.
having the company party though, don't worry.
Oh,
But before, like when all that was happening, they ended up stopping EverQuest Next. They shut down everything. They were switching over to Daybreak. I think it was bad.
That trailer was so rad, dude. The EverQuest Next trailer. Oh man, I
yeah.
was so
God,
hyped
that was
for that game.
2016. That when they nixed it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think
feel
before
old.
was it before that? Was it?
We found out that they were
2016?
getting rid of the thing back in like 2013. So I don't know if they were still trying to work on it, but we knew that it was
Right.
going down the drain around then.
That's horrible. Like, let's go have a party, everybody. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, since we have Chase the Refund King, I just want to ask some more.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
I kind of want to
Bob and
segue into the next topic. So, Chase, you dipped out pretty early on Wayfinder and on Starfield.
That
So it kind of brings us to the next topic. Like, how much time should we give a game before it gets good? Like,
man,
is-
I
I don't know.
Keep
What are
going.
your
Sorry,
thoughts on
sorry.
that? Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
no, I have feelings on that because I watched Josh Strafe Hayes, and he talks about this with a lot of MMOs, and I think it transcends games. I don't think it matters if it's an MMO, if it's single player, whatever. He says that any game that takes over 3 hours to like get to click, is not a good game. It's not a good design. It's not well structured. It's not well explained. He's like, you shouldn't have to jump into a game. You know, like when we started playing Remnant, I know we come back to Remnant. It was like, I hate this game, but I want to keep playing. Like we're getting our butts handed to us, but we're like, I want to keep playing. There's more to explore. There's more to pick up. that's the kind of gameplay loop that I think lacks in a lot of games today. It's like, especially games, you know, and I'm not saying just Starfield, but like I think with Starfield, they were saying like play a minimum of 10 hours. And I know, Rob, I don't know if your experience is like this, but like they're like play 10 hours. That'll get you in. That'll get you off the planet. You'll be flying around, have your own ship and all this stuff. And I was like, it shouldn't take that long for me to like be like hooked in and grabbed by, because like I'll be honest with you, the first hour I was bored. I was trying to figure out the systems. I kind of figured out like most of them because it's very similar to the way the original Skyrim was. They lost because I modified my Skyrim. My UI was like not what the original Skyrim was at all. Everything was modified, and it was like being set back to the early days of Skyrim to be like, oh my god, I have to figure out all these systems.
Like
these columns
of UI kind of a thing.
Like scrolling through. It was like made for console style. Like everything is just annoyingly big. But yeah, I spent the first hour or 59 minutes because Steam loves to oh, you went over an hour, no refund. So I spent 59 minutes. I was like, all right, I'm at that point. I was like, get off the
fire.
The
fact you know that is hilarious.
Oh yeah, no, I set my timer.
Hours?
Rob has a stopwatch next to him.
I think it might be 2 hours, but I always figure it's an hour. But anyways,
he's like, I know exactly how long it is.
I'm not going to say that was. I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say that was the reason though, because like, but I to the point. I think it should get to the point within a few hours. You should be able to see like, okay, hey, this is the gameplay loop. There might be systems in play that like I need to get better at or understand, but like I think there should be that connection to the game. Like you're like, okay, I love the character, I love my character, I love the weapons, I love the way this game feels. You should know that almost within like the first couple hours, I would say. And then that way, the good gameplay, the loop itself keeps you coming back. So that's my feelings. And Josh Drive Hayes is also another one, especially with MMOs. He plays all of the bad MMOs, and he's like, hey, is this the worst MMO ever? And that's his whole shtick. But he defines that too. He's like, it should hook me. It shouldn't make me feel like I'm working a second job. So that was my preamble or long, but it's really.
What was your like approach when you jumped in, Rob? I mean, I think you were kind of in it for the long haul from the beginning, right? But did it hook you kind of when you jumped in? Was that what you were looking for?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like a little bit of everything because that's what I was kind of expecting it to be. I'm a very patient man as far as being able to sit and plus, like I'll tell you, the last game that I ever refunded was No Man's Sky, and look what they did to that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm just not gonna refund games anymore. I'm just gonna hold on to, even if it's not great, I'll hold on to it and hope they make it better later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the last game I refunded was Tarkov, maybe. I can't remember why. I think it's to make our buddy Alex mad. Maybe me and Scott jumped in with him.
Uninstall.
And he like loved the game. And I was like, it's not that good. And I just refunded it. But
Rob, I didn't do that. I didn't do that to you for that reason. I wasn't gonna try to.
Yeah, but I mean, why are the games being refunded? There's this crazy thing I heard this week, and I don't know how true this is or not. I haven't like done a bunch of research to it, but I watched some YouTube videos talking about Baldur's Gate Metacritic ratings were so high that there were games journalists trying to review bomb the game.
Oh, geez.
Almost to shill for companies that are putting out games that are incomplete. Like, in a way, they're trying to put out negative reviews against Baldur's Gate and, like, Elden Ring. Like, these games are anomalies. These aren't really what... You shouldn't expect this from other games. Is there, like, a problem, though, with games that just aren't finished coming out these days? I mean, is that, like, from back when you were in the games industry, James, I mean, is that even increased now? I mean, it seems like it's almost common practice from, just looking at it. I don't know.
I think people are onto the stick now, is that when people release games, they expect it to be a release game, but companies are no longer releasing games like that. They're like, all right, sign up for the battle pass, spend an extra $30 so you get the next 3 expansions. Diablo 4 is going to start doing expansions every single year, and it's just like, hey, let's get a completed game first before we start making a completed. We're funding your completed game. This is not a crowdsourced game. When you're a company like Blizzard, this is not a Kickstarter thing. This is not, Ashes of Creations where you started from nothing. This is like you're a established business, and you're just trying to do money grabs now by the extra expansion with this content that probably should have been in there day one based on the game that you made from Diablo 3. Which, like I said, Diablo 4, great game. It's just not quite there yet, and I feel like we're helping them get there as opposed to them giving us a finished product and say, hey, this is it. We're going to work on the bugs. We're going to continue fixing it. After we get everything dialed in, then we'll talk about expansion. But this is everything we wanted day one in the game. And if it's not there, we're going to keep going until it's in there. So I think that's the way that games are rolling out now, is that they're okay with releasing an unfinished game, knowing that people will pay based on the game's name for the finished product.
Yeah, and I'm not saying Starfield is unfinished because I don't know. I haven't played Starfield yet. I guess more, I'm even thinking of just like Wayfinder recently. And I know there's kind of a gray area like we've talked about previously, because Wayfinder has the tag of early access on it. So, I mean, that's not a beta, but I guess it's not a finished product, I'm guessing.
On purpose, I feel like, too.
But they're still charging money for it, right? Yeah. And so that's kind of where the issue comes in maybe for a lot of people. Is that kind of what you were thinking, Chase? Like when you jumped in, you're like, like in my experience, I went way past the refund time just because of sitting in queues. But like I thought the game was really good, but maybe just unfinished. But I guess it's early access, so I should have known that. But I also paid money for the game. I don't know, what was your experience jumping in Wayfinder? I mean, did you think, hey, is this unfinished? We're beta testing for money.
I want to say in the back of my mind, knowing that it's going to go free to play, I felt like it was less of an obligation to be like, yeah, they don't, it's like, yeah, they need my 20 right now because they're developing the game. But at the same time, I'm like, this isn't a tiny company, and it's not like we're funding, it's not like my $20 is going to make a huge difference for this company. And that was my mindset. It was like, you know what, it's going to go free to play, and I'm sure they're going to have a ton of little things that you can buy, all, similar to Warframe, that structure. It's like, oh, you're in, and then you love, the game. I mean, obviously the systems in Warframe are interesting, but yeah, it was like in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is going to go free to play. I can take that 20 and I can put it somewhere else. In the case of, I just bought Red Dead again, so it's like, because I had it on the Xbox, and so I was like,
when are you going to play that now?
Oh, no, I have no idea.
We got too much Remnant to play, man.
Speaking of time, yeah, I'm not going to be playing any Red Dead, but I have it now. I have it, and that's where I put my money. Was the $20 went to buy, Red Dead Redemption 2, and I know it's on sale right now, so I was like, yeah, I got to buy it finally for my PC. But yeah, I think just overall, it was just in the back of my mind, like, this is going free to play. I think the lack of transparency too was kind of also there, just kind of they played this game, and the game, played them, I guess, if you really want to, lack of a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
But not saying I'm some, like, on my high horse and be like, oh, it's terrible, but
I didn't get my $20.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's how we make a stand in a weird way, to say like, yeah, you launched it in an incomplete state, or at least a state that I wasn't able to play it in.
Yeah.
And and it's like, well, the only way we can talk is through our funds, and we don't have a say otherwise. So
True.
Yep. Well, obviously, games that are finished, it seems like all we talk about is Remnant 2, but I don't know. The last topic we kind of wanted to talk about was just kind of getting older in gaming. I feel like maybe we're just like, get off my lawn. I need a refund. Chase over here. Like, I feel like is that what we are now? Is that, I don't know. What do you think, Scott? Are we just getting too old to enjoy games at this point, like we used to?
I think just with age, we just get more cynical as we go on.
Damn.
Tom, I've called you
That cuts
old
deep.
and grumpy all the time. You and Star Wars now. You're just like, that's not my Star Wars. Like all the.
I mean, how many times can you get
just,
stabbed with a lightsaber and live at this
There he
point?
goes,
I mean, does it
folks.
even
There
matter?
he goes.
Well, I mean,
Back in
are
my
there-
day, when you got stabbed with a lightsaber, you died.
in Star Wars, do people not have internal organs? Is this like what's going on here?
Cauterizes it instantly. Come on.
Yeah.
That's that's true.
No.
It
Qui-Gon
does.
got stabbed through the heart.
Qui-Gon's like pissing in his grave. He's like,
He is, man. Liam
unfair.
Neeson. Even Liam
Anyway.
Neeson's like all these
Liam
shows
Neeson.
make Star Wars too watered down.
Oh man.
So he's grumpy. But I think I don't know, man. It's a weird thing getting older and trying to game. I think there's some like Rob still lives the perfect gamer life, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
Living that
but I
life.
think just as we get older in general and try to combine the new additions to our lives in with the amount of time we used to game and want to continue to game, it just becomes problematic. And I think Chase brought up a good point when he was talking about, or we were all talking about, essentially, it shouldn't take 10 hours to get into a game. And I almost feel like we're looking at that through our lens now.
Mhm.
Because for me, I don't know about you guys, but if I was 20 again and Starfield came out and I had all the time in the world to play it, I'd be pumped that the game just gets started after 10 hours. That means I've barely scratched the surface and I got far more time to put into that. But through our lens now, we're like, man, that time that I used, I could have put it more to something productive or spend more time with the wives, spend more time with the kids, gotten those chores done. So it's like, it's a trade-off. You're in this place where you're like, you want the hours that you are gaming to be good gaming hours. And you don't have that luxury of waiting anymore. So it's really a balancing act. And sometimes I personally really struggle with trying to find it and feeling good about it. And thankfully that's why I'm shilling for Remnant all the time over here, is that it's finally given me that opportunity to enjoy it, but not have to put so much time. So yeah, it's just overall, it's just a balancing act with getting older and trying to keep up with gaming. And especially because there's so much good stuff now. So you have to, you got to prioritize when you really don't want to. And that sucks on its own.
Are you feeling that, James, with your 3 additions or mistakes? I forget what you called them last time.
Yeah, no, definitely not mistakes.
Aw.
I almost got the straight face.
So convincing.
No, I had kids young,
Unplanned surprises.
you know. I guess whatever young is, 26 was when I started having kids. You know, you go through phases in life, especially with video games. When my wife and I first met, it was my buddy would come over that I've been friends with for 22 years now, and we would play Halo 3 until 5 in the morning, until my wife would be in the doorway behind us being like, you guys are still up? And I'm like, we didn't have anything to do. I have kids. I have all I do is just get up for work. I worked late shift. So I'm like, yeah, I'm still up. Like, obviously, to having a kid, having 0 time to play for the first 2 years. And that's why I always tell people that are gamers. And when they have a kid, I'm like, listen, for 2 years, you're not going to play video games. You're going to look at video games. You're going to think about it. But for the first 2 years, it doesn't exist. And then you hit that sweet spot of, I always say that kids are sociopaths that want to constantly kill themselves until they're about 6 years old.
So true.
So that first 2 years, once they learn to walk to about 3 years, if you leap for 30 seconds, they are trying to find a way to murder themselves. That's what kids do. Until you hit about 5, then that physical reliance is kind of moving away now to where you can leave a room for a couple minutes and they won't try to do that. And so once you get to that point around 5 to 7 years old, then you start reintroducing actual spending time with video games. And then they hit this stride at about where I'm at now, 12, where we're all gone from the house for 12 hours. My kids have jujitsu after school. They have after school programs. They have softball after that. And I'm just like, dude, I'm home for an hour or two. And if I don't make dinner or my wife doesn't make dinner and we forget, like, and we have an hour left of the day. I'm like, there's pretty much like 2 hours during a weeknight to really play, and that has to be efficient time. And so when you guys were all talking, I was thinking, what if developers, one of their days that they had to work, they didn't go into work. They actually worked from home, played the game that they're making, and every 30 minutes they get interrupted like by something to where they have to be pulled away from the game, and then they try to complete a task in the game. Like, that takes like a couple hours, and they have to have a group, and everyone in the
Oh,
group is getting interrupted like every couple, like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 20 minutes, and they have to go do a task for like 2 minutes and come back and like make them feel what it's like to be a normal person when they're not at work working on this game, to be like, oh, this is an awesome game, they're gonna love it. Like, no, I can't get this boss done because someone keeps coming in every 5 minutes, and as soon as I look away, like in Remnant, as soon as you look away, you die. So my kid came in last night, we're on a boss, my kid
there's no
comes in,
pause.
I look back to my screen and I'm dead. I'm like,
Like,
so I think that there's these changes and phases in life, and then as your kids get older and everything, or you get more comfortable in your job, you're going to get to that point to where you finally kind of hit that stride. For me, it's either waking up really early in the morning and taking an hour before work, or staying up late on my days off when everyone else goes to sleep, when I choose not to watch a show with the significant other. So yeah, it's definitely changed over the years, and it really is based on where you're at in life and where your kids are at and where your family's at. It's a lot of variables.
I'll ask Rob and Chase this, since I know you guys don't have kids. Is there, I guess me and Scott talk about this a lot, of like almost like a guilty feeling of gaming, like because we're using this time to game when we could be accomplishing other stuff. Are you guys on that at all, or are you kind of like gaming's my happy place kind of a thing?
Speaking of Spawn,
hey.
I just told him, like, dude, I just told you good night. Why aren't you in bed?
dude, I swear they have like
Interrupt.
secret meetings we don't
I'm
know
sorry,
about.
did you say good night?
Like, let's
But you
mess
didn't
him
say
up.
good night the way I wanted.
Oh,
Yes. I need water. I need
Yeah, can you
ice in
tuck
my
me in?
water.
Yeah, you're up 45 minutes past your bedtime. You can tuck yourself. Sorry.
I don't
go
know,
ahead.
Chase Rob. No, Chase Rob, what were you? Do y'all get that guilty feeling, or are you guys still just like, man, this is awesome. This is what I need to be doing. There's nothing else in the world that's better than this.
I mean, like, I have a job, so
That's
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
pretty much, and just I try and do different things around my house, clean it up. I mean, I'm kind of in a somewhat of a fixer upper. I wouldn't. It's been fixed up a little bit, but there's things I want to do around the house.
Mm.
But other than that, like I have there's no guilt, there's no nothing. It's like if I want to play something, I'll play it.
You.
Oh,
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
Scott's
Man.
having a moment right now.
oh,
What about you, Chase?
Whereas, I mean, it's similar in the regard, in that sense of like, I don't have to really think about, obviously the kids aren't interrupting me, but I have 3 dogs, and, my wife is, as well as, there's still expectations around the house, like, either, clean or, make food or, go shopping or whatever, there's always those, and I think that's like anybody that's older than 30 can get in that mindset too, or fall into that, and then obviously work, it's like one of those things. But I think being able to, like, it's like any hobby, and being able to carve out time like we're doing now, to have this, like, to have this conversation, this therapy session for dads and non-dads, like, I think it's a therapy session because it's like I've carved out this time. And in the case of, time, playing right now, playing Remnant, with Scott and, with James, it's like it's been my time. It's like I've been able to say, this is my hobby, I'm going to carve out time for it, and I still have that element of, I have to, I work out in the morning. I've got a routine that I've like stuck to for the last 6 months because I keep throwing out my damn back. And so I finally figured out, and Scott knows, and I'm like, I can't sit at my desk today because I threw out my back. It's like, it's stuff like that. I was like, I knew something needed to change, but I had to find a schedule for it. And I think really what it does come down to is just finding that, like, little bit of carved out time. And that seems to work for me. And it's like, I know, James, you brought up there's something with like introducing your kids to it. My
Yeah.
spin, introducing gaming to to your children, it's like, I think there's a way of doing that in a way that's like almost like an education piece. And I've been having that kind of experience the last month, as like an uncle, if you will. It's my one of my best friends, my wife and I's best friends. Her kids have been coming to me now and being like, "Hey, yeah, Chase is a gamer. Like, hey, can he play? Like, can he play Fortnite with us?" And I'm like,
Play
"Yeah,
Roblox?
like I'm down." No Roblox, no, none of that. Thank God. I'm like, but no, they're like, "Oh yeah, dude, let's play on a Friday." And I'm like, "Cool, yeah, let's do that." Like, that. And I had the best gaming experience with him ever. I was able to kind of help him in a supporting role. And then, my other friend, her son, they're old enough now. They're like 12. No, I think they're like 10. He's been playing Splatoon with me, and it's been a blast. And I'm like, this is freaking fantastic. Like, I'm like the cool uncle, and it's like, it reminds me, because my uncle growing up in like the late 80s, early 90s, he was that to me. He was the guy that introduced me to Tecmo Bowl, to,
Oh,
the
okay.
NES, and like Bo
Contra.
Jackson. Yeah. Running circles
Oh,
around the Contra. Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I brought up Mech Warrior. He introduced me to Mech Warrior and Anvil of Dawn, which was like the most obscure, one of the more obscure RPGs. And so I look back at that, and I'm like, in a way, I'm like, I can kind of bestow that on them. Like, hey,
Yeah.
let's go try this game, or hey, do you guys have that game? Maybe we could play that together. So it's kind of cool in that regard to be like, I know I have this time carved out, and I've like plotted it, and telling my wife now, it's great because like I'll be like, hey, yeah, so and so wants to play, Splatoon with me, and she's like, cool, yeah, go have a blast. I'm like, yeah. So it's like that perfect excuse to be like, yeah, no, I can play in the morning now without having to think about 15 other things. So it's like, it's nice. It's been nice to have that introduction, warming them up to the world of gaming. So
Yeah, my only thing is I'm like, man, I should be editing a video right now instead
That
of
too.
playing a game.
That's
when I,
yeah.
when I get into a game that I really like, I'm like, oh
Mm.
man, I have to edit right now. Like, I just want to play the game. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Me and Scott have this conversation too about MMOs, and then Chase, you've kind of talked about this before too, of like how hard you went on MMOs when you were younger and how much time it took. Whereas I didn't start playing MMOs until I was like married. You know what I mean? So I was like in a more mature phase. I don't have any baggage attached to MMOs, right? So it's like total freedom. Like, I just want to jump in. I'll play whenever. It's like my me time. You know what I mean? The stress relief of this, all the practices all day, all the stuff, that you have to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man, but maybe when all the kids grow up and move out of the house, we'll be able to raid like Coltrane all the time.
Hey, yeah.
With the
You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Raid all together.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yeah, we're gonna make a pact that in
Family raids together.
15 years we're all meeting. Our old asses are like going hard again.
On our
Yeah.
50th
Going to
birthdays.
Starfield
Hey.
private.
I'll tell you
tournament.
what, man. Like right now,
be a
nursing
blast.
homes seem like a drag, but I honestly think, bro.
Dude, I
Can
bet
you
the
imagine-
Ethernet's
can you
so
imagine
good.
Yeah,
millennial
the
LAN
pens,
parties and
Get the
nursing
diaper
homes?
and just right there, keep going. All
Dude,
It's like what we always wanted to do.
Yep.
let's get some GoldenEye split screen going. Let's do it,
Oh,
Yep.
so true.
VR GoldenEye.
The most epic LAN parties in the retired communities.
Tom and James don't even need VR. Tom's already like Odd Job, and James already Jaws. So you just have RL battle.
There we go.
Just chops only. Just chops only.
Chops only.
No, we're doing proximity
GoldenEye.
mines only.
Oh, Prox.
Remote,
Oh,
only
I
man.
would say
once.
remote mines were the most
Remote
fun.
mines. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chuck them
Oh
and
my
blow them
God.
up. Or be like, dude, come up here. I've never seen this glitch before.
You're in the bathroom stall. Everyone's looking up.
Smile,
Oh. Oh man, my face. Oh, it's so good.
Good times, man.
Yeah, that was awesome, guys. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah.
Before Scott really falls asleep, let's wrap it up.
I'm gonna pay for this tomorrow.
Hey.
But like, seriously, guys, thanks everyone for joining us. We're gonna try to do this every week still, and if you enjoy it, man, leave some comments about your experience as being dad gamers or just, you know, having more responsibilities, what that looks like. And let us know maybe your experience with Starfield, you know, is kind of some of the negative stuff just being overblown, which, you know, obviously usually it's somewhere in the middle on these kind of things. So let us know your experiences. But yeah.
Show some love for Remnant, damn it.
Hey.
The game is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
But
Shut up, Tom. All right.
But yeah, man, thanks for joining us. Give us a like and a sub, and yeah, man, we'll see you guys next time. Later, everybody.